He was Todd Terrific, the Bionic Kid, the Robo QB, an OC high school sensation, USC standout Rose Bowl hero, and first-round pick of the Los Angeles Raiders. He was also Marijuanovich, a rebel and a drug addict. His pro career crashed, and so did Todd Marinovich. Jail time, years of rehab, one step forward, two steps back. Last August, he was arrested for trespassing in a stranger's yard, naked and under the influence. Now he's on probation and back on the road to recovery. He's speaking at schools about the dangers of drugs and pursuing his second career as an artist. The rise, the fall, and the redemption of Todd Marinovich. He's next on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by...
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
Chapman University in the City of Orange. Chapman University is a proud sponsor of Inside OC and community programming.
And it was a rude awakening, to say the least.
Well, I'm Rick Reiff, and I'm talking with Todd Marinovich. Todd, great to have you on.
Thanks, Rick.
So let's, your story is one of, is it recovery, redemption? How would you explain what you're going through right now?
Without a doubt, recovery. It's a beautiful process, and that's what it is. What I've found is there's no quick fix or pill. It's doing work on myself, and thank God I have found recovery, because I've had physical sobriety before, and this isn't it, meaning abstinence is a requirement, but that's where it begins. And with self-examination, honesty, willingness to do things. Recovery for me is doing things that I don't necessarily want to do, but I get results. And so what I found is that through drugs and alcohol, my entire adult life and even back into high school, what I was really searching for was a connection with people. And I didn't know how to get that without drugs and alcohol. That was my solution to life, was a substance. And now that I'm free of that, I know that that's what I was longing for, was a connection. And so if I'm addicted, it might be a surprise to you, I have an addictive personality. I am addicted to connecting with people.
Yeah. So some viewers out there, they're listening and saying, wow, this sounds like a guy who's getting his act together, yet the last time you were in the news was last August.
Yes.
And since then, it'll be clear, and we're going to talk about it more, you feel you've made a lot of progress since that incident that occurred last August.
Yes, I have been, a guy came to me and said, Todd, are you finally ready to treat your illness? And you know what, it takes what it takes. My only regret is that I didn't do this years ago.
What flipped the switch on? Because clearly people must have been telling you these kinds of things over the years, because as you say, you abstained, you've been on the wagon and everything. Mm-hmm. And so what was the difference this time?
I wish I knew if that were true. I wish I knew that people were telling me these things, and maybe they were and I just wasn't hearing it. That could be the case. But what brought me to this point of willingness was a complete being desperate and a feeling of humiliation at a whole new level. And from that arrest, and then it was the self-loathing and guilt and shame and remorse that comes along with being a substance abuser, because to keep that lifestyle going, I couldn't be honest. And it just ripped me apart, living double lives when I was an athlete half the time, and then I'm a drug addict the other half the time, and I can't be honest with anybody. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
What happened back August? Just because, you know, everybody read Todd Marinovich is naked in a stranger's yard. How do you wind up in that situation?
Yeah, Rick, good point. A lot of drugs and alcohol will get you there. And I believe that the illness that I have is progressive. And so since I've been not treating it for a long time, I get myself in situations like that, and it's not really a surprise. It's a surprise to the public, maybe, but not to people that have this and are recovering or are recovered. They kind of go, gosh, I hope he finds the solution.
Right. And of course, your story is when people have followed football star and then the struggles, and a lot of that was encapsulated in that ESPN special on you, the Marinovich Project back in 2011. Let's just roll in a little bit of that.
Okay.
This is a love story between a father and a son who love the same things. Both of these guys are extreme. So what we get is a larger-than-life tale.
People that have said that I've spent most of my life doing something that I didn't want to do in the first place, it's insane.
Todd Marinovich was born and bred to be a quarterback. Father, ex-Raider.
This boy has never tasted a fast food burger or fries.
One of the things I struggled with is, if you're good at something, does that mean you were meant to do it?
Todd Marinovich was the 24th pick in round 1. Brett Favre, a future Hall of Famer, wasn't taken till pick 33 in round 2. That says it all.
We found ourselves rooting for a guy like Todd who had that it factor.
A lot of them were convinced you go out and walk on water.
It's probably because the Jesus sandals I wear.
Todd was fun. He was easygoing. I thought he was as intuitive as a quarterback that I've ever, been around. Joe Montana, just a natural. Todd was that way in the huddle.
The toll you take physically and mentally and emotionally wasn't worth the end result. And it got to a point where I just kind of want to be me. And what that is, I really didn't know.
It was a scary feeling not to find out what was going on and not be able to do anything about it.
His drug use was a reaction of not wanting to be that person, an escape route.
Marinovich, does he go down hard?
Todd was done, but nobody was done with him. And then he didn't know how to get out of it, and so he acted out. He found a way to ruin himself.
He had lost everything, didn't have a bank account, didn't have a place to go.
I finally got tired of going to jail, got tired of the looks that people would give me, that look of disgust. It was a moment of clarity in a sense that I finally realized that over the years of the self-destruction and self-sabotage, that who was I hurting the most?
So, wow. I mean, what an early life you had,
yes.
Todd. And so a lot in there about your dad.
Yes.
But you call him Marv. You told me you never called him Dad. You called him Marv. Talk about that relationship that you had with Marv.
Marv has been a real outstanding coach throughout my entire life, but as a father, not so good. And being in recovery, what I've come to understand is that he was doing the best he could with the information that he had. And does it make it okay? No, because being a young boy, really, and subjected to physical and emotional abuse is not okay.
What kind of physical abuse?
Well, when you're dealing with an ex-NFL defensive lineman and they body slam quarterbacks for a living, he carried that over to the home. And so I think when I'm sharing, I do a lot of speaking around the country, and I really believe we're all in recovery, and recovery from a traumatic childhood. I don't think you can live through childhood without having some kind of trauma. And now I'm learning to work through those things. And what recovery for me is about relationships. And my relationships, I've been able to get honest with myself and be responsible and own my part in it, go to these people and really reconnect. And so me and my dad's relationship today is phenomenal. He's my best friend, and I love to spend time with him. I don't know how long he's going to be here on the planet, and so I make the most of every day with him.
Yeah, in fact, you take care of him to some extent.
Yes, he's getting up there in age, and all those football injuries take a toll on you, mentally and physically. And so he still recognizes me as his son. And even when he doesn't, I know, because that could...
So does he have dementia or Alzheimer's?
Yes, dementia. And the thing about it is, I believe if he does forget that I am his son, I know that he knows I'm somebody close to him, and that's good enough for me.
So did he make you the football player that you were?
Without a doubt. I think people have asked, would you have made it to the NFL without all that hard work? I don't know. It's hard to say. I know I was given athletic ability by birth, but you know, when I talk to young people, there are no shortcuts in recovery or no shortcuts in anything in life. And so what he did instill with me is work ethic. And that, you know, and I use that today in my art. I've become a professional artist the last 7 years, which I couldn't be more thrilled about. People say, God, you had a great job before, Todd. And I go, it doesn't even compare to what I do now. I get to paint pictures for a living. So, but what I did 7 years ago, I said, I know that there's no shortcuts. I'm going to paint every day and to just hone my skills. And so I try to convey that to young people that there's no substitute for putting in the time.
And we're going to talk more about the art.
Yes.
The football, there was a lot in that Marinovich project. I want to talk to you about some of that. But there was a quote that you posed this as a question. You said, just because you're good at something, does that mean you're born to do it? And you were talking about football. You were so good at football. So let me ask you, what's your answer to that question? Just because you're good at something, does that mean you're born to do it?
I don't think I have an answer for you, Rick.
It's a good question.
Yeah,
no answer?
No answer, but I know this, that now in my life, I know that I wasn't put here. I believe this with all of me. It wasn't to throw spirals. I think it was actually to get people's attention with that, and then actually for me today to deliver a message that is much needed for our youth and people in general. That because you know what, when you look at it, I was culturally speaking or socially, I was at the top. I should be happy. You know, I have millions of dollars in the bank. I'm in the top of my profession. Why do I feel this gigantic hole in my gut, and I'm trying to fill it with materialistic things, and I'm miserable? Something's not adding up. So what I try to do is share this with people, and maybe I can redirect some kids or some youth or some people that, gosh, maybe I should direct some attention on what I like or what I'd love to do rather than just punch a clock. Yeah.
Wow.
Because really, if you're doing something that you love, it doesn't feel like work. I can spend 12 hours a day painting, and am I working? Yes, but it's really not work to me because I enjoy it.
I thought it was telling when you talked about that great game you had for the Raiders against the New York Giants.
Yes.
And your father afterwards said to you that you had exceeded his expectations. It's almost like that was the end of your football career.
Correct. Because you know what, that's what drove me, and a lot of young kids, and especially boys, they wanted to please their old man, and I'm no exception. That's what I wanted to do. And don't get me wrong, I love the game of football. I'm a fan of it. I think it's fantastic. It's a great, outlet for people. And but I knew right then when he gave me that stamp of approval, now I want to go do what I want to do.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, I want to be even better, or I want to do it. It's like, thank you very much,
Yes,
I'm out of here.
Yes, and the thing about it is I didn't know what that was. I just knew it was not showing up on Sunday, signing autographs, and being the guy, so to speak. I just wasn't okay with that.
And yet you realize 98% of humanity out there
wants to be that guy.
Yeah, and boy, they wouldn't have blown the opportunity, right? And one more thing on football, a little ironic perhaps. You're having these drug problems.
Yes.
You're playing in a sport where there's a thing called steroids.
Yes.
Was there a lot of steroids in the locker room? Or?
Oh, yes. Especially in the late 80s, early 90s, it was booming.
And did you take steroids?
No, and you know what? I don't know why. I did. I just felt like I really didn't, because of the position I played. I didn't think it would transfer over to helping me in any ways. And I wasn't into the aesthetics of looking good. I was just trying to improve my athletic ability. And steroids seem to do that in a quick way, but in the long run, they don't. They're more harmful than they are.
So did you feel these guys have an unfair advantage, or?
I really didn't get caught up in it. I felt like, a few of them got so muscle-bound and a little bit on the angry side more than the norm. But I didn't feel like it was an unfair advantage. No.
How do you feel about the issue of concussions in football? And do you feel you have any effects from it?
You know what? When I do go into the doctor's office and they have me fill out the paperwork, and there's just a little line for concussions and how many, and I said, I need more space for this. Because my whole thing is, back when I was playing, they would say you had a concussion, but really, what's the level of the concussion? Because if we're football players, we know we've had bell ringers. We just have a little ringing in our ears. And then there's the total knocked unconscious, where it's total blackout. And I've had several of those in that range. And am I having effects? I don't know. I think, I put a lot of it on, I'm just getting older and I'm forgetful. But who knows? I think now that I'm in recovery, everything's coming back around and I'm not being so forgetful. So a lot of that forgetfulness was related to substance abuse.
Did you ever play football while you were high?
Absolutely. Because I tell you what, Rick, it was like I said, it was my solution to life. I couldn't just separate football and life. It was all one for me.
And you could still perform at a high level?
Well, I didn't show up on game day loaded. But I mean, it was still in my system. I couldn't test clean on game day, but I would wake up on game day, and I wish, like I say now, every day is game day for me, because there's no, there are no dress rehearsals in life. In football, we get to dress rehearse all week, get ready for the big game. But in life, every day is game day. And I love game day.
How much did you make in pro football?
It was a couple $1 million, and that's a lot of money, and it still is a lot of money. And it lasted a while, but like with anything, it passes.
And it's gone.
It's gone. Yes. I'll tell you what, I am more happy today than I've ever been. And I could pull out the change in my pocket, and that's about what I got.
Wow. So to some extent, you are now a starving artist.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about your art, because I think it's impressive. I think it's impressive. And we're going to look at a couple of pictures here.
Okay.
And this picture we're looking at right now is called The Alchemist.
Yes.
It looks like a self-portrait to me.
And somebody told me that all paintings are self-portraits.
Is it?
I think that to be true. Especially when I'm painting from the heart and not from something that I'm looking at, recreating either the ocean that I'm looking at or from a picture that I do when I'm doing portraits. If I'm just painting from within, most definitely what I'm going to create is me.
And now the title, how did you come up with that title, The Alchemist?
It is it comes from the old alchemy of turning, metal into precious gold. Right. And for me, of that painting, it's an inside job, and it's kind of an inner alchemy that's going on. It's a transformation of the human being, and really, it's been my process or my evolution as a human being, letting go of certain things to evolve.
All right, and let's look at another one.
Rick's like, all right, let's move on.
Talk about another potential self-portrait. Hey, here's one you call The Crown.
Yes.
And there's headlines there and everything. This kind of, this one, not much guesswork about that, right?
No, and it was my grandma, who I love dearly. She taught, you know what, she gave me the one spiritual principle that I try to live by, and if we could do this, and I try to do this, is just treat people like you want to be treated. Basically, you're going to be good if you can live by that. And what she did was she started saving, like a lot of our family does, press clippings, and I came across them one day, and I went, oh my goodness, let's see if I can use these. And not all of them are flattering headlines. They're just my story. And I put it behind kind of the emotion or the feeling of living these headlines, and a scream best defines that.
It looks like you've got this crown on that you're not thrilled about having that crown on, right?
Right. I mean, there were, you know what, it's been a long road, Rick, and from playing at USC when you're a teen, when I go back to SC and I see the age that these kids are, I'm like, are you kidding me? That was me. And the pressure of that at an 18, 19-year-old kid is unhealthy, to say the least. And so when I go back and I see that, I have so much empathy for these student athletes that are thrown on the stage. And that's what it really was for me. I was thrown on this stage. Now deal with all this, and deal with the LA Coliseum and the student body wearing buttons that say, "In Todd we trust." And then the next week be booed right out of your home stadium. Deal with that.
Yeah.
And so I don't regret any of my experience, because my experience is made me what I am, and I embrace it. Am I proud of some of the antics that you mentioned? Absolutely not. But that is, I own that. I'm responsible for that, and it's helped me now live a different way.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore. And so the great thing about me being in recovery, if I stop, what I do yesterday has no bearing on what I do today. So I live this thing one day at a time. And so if I stop doing this, Rick, you will know, because I will make headlines again.
Yeah.
So let's hope not.
And you are on probation, and you don't want to go back to jail, right?
Right.
So when you talk to the kids, which you are doing now, so you have had an eventful few months. I mean, you were down at the bottom last
Correct.
August, and you had went through the court and all that. But now you're talking to schools, right?
Yes.
To kids. So talk about some of those experiences. What schools have you been to?
You know, it's the most, who would have thought? Because, I was, in my early youth, my sister described me as being terrifyingly shy. And that's true. That's the way I was. The only time that I really felt at home was either playing a sport, and that's why I played them all. So if you said to me a year ago that you're going to be speaking in front of student bodies, 2,500 kids, just you and the kids, or young people, I would have said, you got to be out of your mind. But that's what I get to do, and I'm completely comfortable. And so really recovery for me is sharing my story. It's a win-win. If I can reach one of these students just to maybe redirect or have them rethink what they're doing, it's a win. And
is it typically high schoolers?
Typically high school. I speak out, since I live out in the Coachella Valley and Orange County, I speak to students out there. I've spoken at Palm Desert High School, the juvenile hall, which I really, because I left saddened because of the state of the living facility. It's so what I want to do is bring color into places like that, because color is life. And now I'll be speaking on Friday to Torrey Pines High School down in San Diego. And it's about what I've found about being in recovery is being comfortable in my own skin.
Is that what's
That
the
is
message?
it.
That's the message.
If I really believe that there should be a class or a course about teaching kids how to actually be comfortable in their own skin, because I know I'm not the only one.
Opioids,
Yes.
heroin. What's the big scourge among kids?
I think it starts with alcohol, and then the epidemic is heroin or synthetic heroin that's found through prescription drugs and Oxycontin and all that, and kids are dying. It's a staggering statistic that down in South County, the 23 kids from one graduating class are now dead from opiate-related deaths. Yeah, and so I feel like because I've been brought from the fire, it's my responsibility to share that there's a way out, and there is a way out.
Okay, Todd, thanks so much. There's other things I want to talk to you about, which we'll do on our open mic segment. The
Great.
book, you got a book, a foundation, and all that.
All
we'll
good
talk
stuff.
about that. And that's it for now. Thanks again to my guest, Todd Marinovich. You can watch this show and past shows by going to pbssocal.org or rickreiff.com. You can also catch our shows in our post-show open mic chatter on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by...
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
Memorial Care is transforming the way healthcare is delivered, keeping our communities and businesses healthy by guiding them on the path to wellness with easily accessible hospitals, physician offices, and outpatient centers. Memorial Care, leading the way.